Well, welcome to the channel, guys. You're with Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. I don't practice as a preacher anymore or in the ministry. I've given that away for a long time ago. I realised the call when and I was happy to say, okay, that was it for me. I didn't have the tolerance anymore, to be honest, for people, and it was time for me to get out. And sometimes it's hard to admit that you've got to change direction. But I was a bricklayer and a block layer and a mason anyway, so that didn't matter. I was doing that on the side anyway. Relationships, let's have a talk about it. Human nature's fluid, okay? It's fluid. You can't force human nature into a box or into a set of conditions. That's not fair on people to do that. But when you start a relationship, an exclusive relationship, you should know what the conditions are and what's expected. People that agree to go into an exclusive relationship should have the maturity to be able to stick by what they say. But what's happening today is everybody seems to be what I would describe as dying in the arse. Nobody seems to be able to follow through with what they're saying the conditions are for the relationship. And therefore you've got all this carnage everywhere of people calling other people narcissists and all this shit, and they don't even know what a narc is. And usually it's the narcissist that's describing other people as being narcissists, which really is a micro-incremental dark triad trait. But all that aside, all the different attachment styles aside, a person's word should be their word. But these days that can only last a day or a month or a couple of months and change. So you have to have your wits about you no matter where you are in the relationship or who you're with. You have to make sure you're playing your part and you're sticking by their word and your word. And if somebody starts to falter, you need to be aware. Not everybody's going to play the game the way they should. You can't hold people to conditions. You can only trust that they're going to stand by what they say. And that would go for you as well and for me. There's no point getting into somebody's life if you're going to start letting them down. But this happens all the time. And the next thing you seem like you're chastising someone that's supposed to be an adult. When was the last time you did something you said you weren't going to do? When was the last time you let someone down or I let someone down? The fact of the matter is, it all comes down to value. A relationship, even if it is exclusive, can be valuable at the start, but are you going to be able, or is it worth keeping that value? What if things start to change and they're not changing for the better? Then what do you do? Is it you that's causing it? Is it them that's causing it? That's where you need to have self-awareness. And self-awareness should start with yourself, not everybody else, because that's easy, isn't it? Blaming everybody else instead of looking at yourself. If you're in a relationship and now you're becoming like you're a parent or a fucking therapist or something like that, you need to stop and ask yourself, what the hell's going on? Then on the other hand, if you're being treated like you need a fucking doctor or some kind of set of rules outside the original ones that you've made between yourselves at the beginning of the relationship, who have you ended up with? Compatibility is not something you can work out straight away. It takes time to work out what really is inside somebody's heart when you go into a relationship with them. And a lot of people have had different experiences through their life. A lot of people have been let down. They've let down. We've all had the good and bad side of a relationship at the benefit of ourselves and at the expense of others. But you should learn by the time you're 50 or 40 or 50 or maybe even 30, you should know by that point how to navigate a relationship in a way in which is not just going to benefit yourself, but the person that you've come into contact with. Because it's a gift to be able to, it's more than a gift really, to be able to come into somebody's life and at least try and share in their life and yours. But how stupid do you look when you start messing it all up? Some people haven't got a conscience for that. They just go from one person to the next, leaving a great big trail of mess behind them, and they don't care because there's no accountability or responsibility. People don't want to be the judge and jury of themselves anymore. So when you're trying to ask for some kind of mediation in the relationship because the person's not living up to what they said, that can be really, really difficult if they've lost their moral compass and now you're attached to them. Then you find yourself in the dilemma of how's this going to be resolved? And if this person's turned stubborn or their true characteristics weren't going to ever work out for the benefit of the relationship, then what do? Now you've got a game of chess on a board which has no transparency, responsibility or accountability. And so where does that leave you? Are you just going to be a pawn with your king still standing? Are you just going to be a pawn if you're a queen and your queen's still standing? Who's in order here? Where's it going wrong? Have you investigated yourself? Are you self-aware of what you're doing? Are you being fair to this person who's let you come into their life? You got to ask yourself this question. Who are you getting your advice from, and is it biased or unbiased? Is it for the benefit or for the worst? Too many times people don't have advice. They don't want advice. They just want to get on with wherever their brain's at. They don't give a care about the trail of destruction they leave behind them. They don't even know if they're following evil or lust or their desires that are misleading them. This is the world we live in today. These are the chameleons that we're dealing with today. How much chameleons in you? How much chameleons in me? And if you've met somebody with children, is it your responsibility to discipline somebody else's children? I don't think so. Is it your responsibility to discipline my children? I don't think so. And what if it turns out they're a drug addict or they're an alcoholic? Then what do? What if it turns out that their drugs are becoming more important than spending time with you? Or when you do spend time with them, they're drunk. And you're carrying out what you said you would, and that's to be there and to be available for someone. And now all of a sudden, this person isn't even mentally present, physically, but not mentally. And it's all a passive form of aggression, even though nothing looks like it's wrong on the outside. You're the one that's having to deal with somebody that's not even psychologically fully present. We all know what that's like, don't we? These are the same people that have ruined their marriages and broken their marriages because the people they were with were either alcoholics or addicts themselves, only for them to become the same thing and to get the same rejection. Because nobody can tolerate somebody that's not present in a relationship. And then you got interferers and all the other things going on, and nobody seems to have the courage to stand up and say, hey, this is my relationship and you don't belong in it, and why are you interfering? That's because these people that are in the relationship are emotionally attached to people that aren't, and now these other people are running the relationship for them. And whose expense is that at? Oh yeah, it's at your expense, but guess what? It's going to be at the other person's as well, because when you wake up and see what's going on behind your back, you're going to leave that situation and you're going to leave that person, and they're going to be left standing there with their foolish counselors who can't manage their own lives, let alone yours or their relationship. Because people that can't manage their own relationships don't want you to have a good one. They'll do everything they can to try and wreck it. And if the person that you're with allows it, then you're at the mercy of that person. And we all know where that ends up, don't we? And it's definitely not where we set out from at the start with our conditions and how the relationship was going to work, with all the exclusivity and all the excitement that come with that, because the exclusivity was only relative for a certain amount of time. And that's what they say is a micro incremental sign of a characteristic dark triad person. But no, we can't admit that, or we can't even recognize that. But you can if you're aware of how it works. And when you split up with these people and they've wrecked the relationship and you can't take them anymore, all of a sudden they're out with somebody else. They're back on the dating sites. They've learned nothing. They're on their drugs and they're listening to their misleading counsellors, and the next thing you're getting villainized. But does that really matter? I don't think so. Why doesn't that matter? Because you're still on your purpose. You're still the same person that's doing what they were supposed to do. You wanted to do the right thing, but they wouldn't do it. They were the ones that let you down. They were the ones that went backwards. And you've got to be aware of this and go, well, whose loss is this? If you're still living under the rules of the exclusive arrangement and that person's not doing it, then it's not your problem, it's theirs. And that will come round to swipe their legs out from underneath them. And the people that they listen to and the people that cause the trouble will go down with them. That's just how it works. Because if your integrity's in place and you haven't done anything to hurt anyone or undermine your word, they go down, not you. They say all's fair, and it really is. But when someone starts letting you down, that's where you've got to have your real love in place. Love for yourself, not love for the person that ain't sticking by the rules of exclusiveness and the gift of having you in them lives. You've got yourself what's commonly called a dud. And the last person that wants to admit they're a dud is the dud, because that's why they're a dud. They haven't been accountable or responsible to themselves. Therefore, when they get dumped and you walk away and you kick them to the curb and you move on because they wouldn't listen, and now they're gloating in their pride and self-pity with the people that talked them out of the relationship, you bounce on while they go down deeper into their tunnel, 7 times worse, the Bible says. When you muck people around for the wrong reason, you're going down 7 times worse. The fact of the matter is, people don't live up to what they say anymore. They'll tell you something at the start, only to be revealed as being the complete opposite. While you keep growing and you keep learning, and they go back to where they started. The past behaviour always produces and predicts future behaviour. So what's that mean for you? That means you keep going in your integrity. You keep building your character and keep staying fit like I am now. Because if you've been kicked to the curb, or you've had to kick them to the curb, they will go back to their past behaviour. And so will you, and hopefully that's one of a positive nature, not a negative. And this is where the rubber hits the road, because people that wreck things want you to be wrecked. And if you're not wrecked because of what they've done, that's going to cause terrible confusion for that person. You see, personal integrity takes effort, and not everybody's going to make that effort. And you'll find yourself on the end of other people's laziness and abuse. And that's where you have to know who you are and what you stand for, and stand for it. Have you ever seen a dog with its sitting on its backside with its legs up, dragging its ass along the ground? That's what these people are going to be doing, and it's not going to affect you, because you'll be carrying on the way you were before they came along. Well, they're scraping their ass along the ground like the dog that you saw doing the same thing on the grass in the street. So what difference does that make to you? Well, you be a kangaroo. You keep hopping, you keep bouncing, while they're scraping their ass along the ground, because that's what they deserve. You don't go into an exclusive relationship and then die in the ass, because that's where you'll end up. You'll end up on your ass. This is Reverend Dr. Jason W. Morrison, theologist. Be encouraged. I'll catch you on the next one. Past behaviour predicts future behaviour. So you have a close look at yourself. What was your past behaviour? Because that's where you'll go if you default. So if you can change that for your future, all well and good, but for the 99%, that ain't gonna happen. It's too hard, it takes too much effort. This is Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist, New South Wales. Bye for now.